أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا عجل ممدود فطر الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالصخور ميدان أرضه والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعن الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقان الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا حملته أمه كرها ووزعت كرها وحمله وفصاله 30 شهرا حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين آمنا بالله وصدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, once again we have been granted this opportunity to get together and celebrate the WILADAT, the birthday of our 11th Imam, Imam Hassan Al-ASKARI, salawatullahi wa salamu alayk. And on this occasion, we congratulate the Imam of our time, Imam Al-Hujjat, Jallallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, on this auspicious occasion of the birth of his father. As we all know, Imam was the son of our 10th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Muhammad Al-Hadi alayhi salatu wassalam. And his mother was by the name of Salil or Sosan or Haditha or Hariba. These were all her names, and she was from An-Nawba, a vast area in southern Egypt. His wife was Narjis Khatun, the mother of our Imam, who was a daughter of Yeshua, son of Caesar of Rome, a descendant of Shamun, the Hawari of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. His birth was in the year 232 Hijrah on the 10th of Rabi Thani in Samara, though some historians say it was in Medina. His other names are Al-Askari, Al-Zaki, Al-Abu Muhammad, Al-Khalis, Al-Siraj, and he was the second youngest Imam to have gotten his martyrdom in the 12 that we have. The first one was his grandfather, the 9th Imam, who was killed at the age of 25, and Imam Askari alayhi salam was killed at the age of 28. Out of the 28 years of his life, 23 years he spent with his father, Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam, and 5 years of his own imamat. Imam's main focus during his imamat was to prepare the mu'mineen for the Ghaybat of the Imam of our time, because the period was to change. When we see the historical level of this, we see that there were 313 golden years that Muslims had, which they did not appreciate, and rather they abused those 313 golden years, in which at least one of the Ma'asum was present amongst them. Rasulullah was born in the year 53 before Hijrah, and Imam Al-Askari was killed in the year 260 Hijrah, which gives us a period of 313 years in which one Masoom minimum was in the presence physically of the mu'mineen. However, the period was now to change, and the period of Ghayba was to start. So the Imam, like his previous forefathers, the four Imams together between the 8th and the 11th Imam, they all were focused on preparing mu'mineen for the period of Ghayba. So let us look at some of our responsibilities on this auspicious night, based on the historical facts as well as what we need to do and how do we need to address these issues for ourselves, inshallah. One of the most emphasized issues of the Ahlul Bayt throughout is to be upright in our faith as well as our actions and our deeds. That has been the focus throughout. And in order to be able to achieve this lofty goal, the Masumeen have all emphasized and physically and practically shown us the importance of the correct upbringing of children. When we look at this is a responsibility on our shoulders as parents. We are going to be questioned about this ni'mah of being given and granted children by Allah on the day of Qiyamah, of how we raised them and what values we gave them. And this, when we look at the 11th Imam, for example, he grew up in the house of guidance. He was raised by a Ma'asum Imam. He was himself Ma'asum. Yet we must understand one thing, that all the Ma'asumeen did not live a life of miracles. They lived a normal life of human beings, so that they were role models for other human beings and mankind to follow. When we look at the Imam's upbringing, there is a beautiful poem that has been written by a Sunni scholar by the name of Shabrawi. And he says, what an honorable house it is, and what a glorious lineage it is. It is the house of pride and exaltation. They are all equal in noble root, in the good inners, and in the glory like the teeth of a comb. Each one is same. There is no difference. And when we look at the hadith of Rasulullah, when he said, Awwaluna Muhammad wa akhiruna Muhammad wa awsatuna Muhammad wa kulluna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Imam grew up in the house of Quran and the heart of Islam, which emanated guidance for everyone. When we look at him as a child, once he was seen as a very young child by a man that Imam was crying. He did not know it was the next Imam after Imam Al-Hadi. And when he saw him crying, he thought to himself that maybe this child is crying because he does not have a toy in his hand which the other children are playing. So he went towards the child and said, "Oh child, stop crying, because I will get you the toy that you are looking for, so that you may play with your fellow mates." When he approached the Imam who was yet a child says, "No, we have not been created for play." The man was astonished at the response of this young child and said, "Then what for have we been created?" And Imam responded, "For knowledge and worship." To gain knowledge and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the man says, "Where did you get this from?" And Imam, as a young child, responded by reciting the ayah of Surah Al-Mu'minun, in which Allah says, "Afahasibtum annama khalaqnakum abasa wa annakum ilayna la turja'un." What, did you think that we have created you in vain, and that you shall not be returned to us? That was Imam's response. In this verse, we can see the Imam has actually spelled out why we have been created and what is our purpose. Our purpose is not play and sport. Our purpose is responsibility and growth. We need to grow as we grow in age. We need to grow in our maturity as well. The man, astonished and confused, he said, "O child, what has happened to you while you are still a guiltless child? You are ma'soom." And the Imam responded, "I have seen my mother set fire to big pieces of wood, but fire is not lit except with small pieces, and I fear Allah that I do not become one of those small pieces who set fire to others." This was the maturity of the Imam. Though we, the Shias, the followers of Ahlul Bayt, have firm faith that all Masumin and all Hujjah of Allah, whether they are prophets, whether they are Mursaleen, whether they are Ulul Azm, whether they are Aimma alayhimus salam, each one of them is matured at birth. Like Nabi Isa, like Imam Zaman alayhi salam and all the others, they are all matured at birth. However, we need to take a cue from this, that as we rear our children and our responsibility grows, we need to be teaching them and raising them and upbring them with the correct values and with the correct faith, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam was the eldest son of Imam Al-Hadi, and therefore he was also a mentor to his younger siblings. He had one brother by the name of Abu Ja'far, whose name was Muhammad, and he was very pious and a very principled man who grew with the Imam. The Imam mentored him and gave him all the values that were required as an elder brother. However, he was very intelligent and had very high moral standards. However, he fell ill and he died very early in very young age. However, Imam had another brother by the name of Hussein. He was Hassan and his other brother was Hussein, and therefore the two were always together, such that the people of Samara used to call them as-Sibtain, referring to the two sons of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatimatu Zahra salawatullahi wa salamu alayhima. Since Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Imam Hussein alayhi salam are also known as Sibtain, when we study the lives of the household of Rasulullah, each one of them gave importance to upbringing of children, whether they were ma'asum or otherwise. And they gave a lot of attention to raising and upbringing of their children. When we look at, for example, Karbala, we see young adults, youths, children, who were the nucleus of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's revolution. And this was not because, and we must understand this, that this was not because that they got an intensive course on the night of Ashura, that their mothers gave them an intensive course on the night and the morning they were ready for battle and to protect and to defend the Imam. No, this was something that was done as their upbringing, such that when Qasim ibn Hassan was asked, "How do you find death?" he was expected to give the answer that it is sweeter than honey, even at that age. When we look at Aliun al-Akbar, one day he sees, there is a beautiful conversation that relates a message to us, that at the age of 18, when he heard his father all of a sudden say, "Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un," he turned to his father and said, "Oh my father, what you have just declared is haq. However, what is the occasion for this?" And Imam said, "I saw a vision in which a caller was crying and saying that this caravan is going towards its death and death is going to overtake them." So Ali ibn al-Akbar asked his father, "Alastu alal haq? Are we not on haq?" He was expected to ask that question because the way he was raised. by the mother and the aunt who are not ma'asum to the level of the Hujjah of Allah, but they raised these children in that manner. When we look at Aunan and Muhammad, the sons of Janab Zainab, when we look at the other children of the Ahlul Bayt on the day of Ashura, all of them had that little to their marifah, to that level, that they knew that they needed to defend the Imam of the time and portray his innocence for the world to come and generations to come. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So therefore, because in Karbala, this is an example for us for very many aspects of our lives. We need to draw lessons from this. The youths, the young adults have given us a lesson how youths and adults have to be. And for that matter, it gives us parents the responsibility that it is not only that we give them material things, but we need to instill the values of Ahlul Bayt, the correct aqaid in faith, and bring them up and guide them, not only when they are children, but when they are youths and become young adults, till they become independent for themselves. It is the mindset of the youths that we need to target. We need to make them grow in that level, that they can make the right decisions based on correct aqaid and based on the values of the Ahlul Bayt that we have inherited from our parents and forefathers. When we say we need to be concerned about them till they become independent and go away, or we leave the world, then what is that concern? Is it the concern of providing them with a shelter and whatever they need to eat and grow, or their college only? That is there, the material needs are covered by the parents. Our biggest concern should be the influences that are around us, the environment that we live in. That is our major concern of how we need to bring our children. It is the influences that will make their level of thought. It is the influences that will form them into how they will make decisions. And this is an important responsibility that Allah has placed over our shoulders. Our children have to be our topmost priority. And this priority is not that we are doing business and we are busy every time and now and then, and we have no time for anything else because we are earning for them and we are gathering means for them, or we are leaving behind legacies of businesses and properties for them. No, the legacy that we need to leave behind is an honorable son who will keep our head rising on the day of Qiyamah. When we look at the Quran, when we look at the dua of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, we see in Surah Ibrahim, the 14th surah, that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam has asked a dua to Allah. And he says, Rabbi ij'alni muqima as-salati wa min dhurriyati, Rabbana wa taqabbal ad-du'a. My Lord, make me keep up and establish salat. That is another discussion. Reading salat, reciting salat is a burden, and establishing salat are two different things, and we will discuss at its appropriate time, inshallah. But we can see in this dua that, Ya Allah, make me one who establishes salat, but he does not stop there. Wa min dhurriyati, and also my offspring be from amongst those who establish salat. Oh my Lord, accept my dua. After that he says, Rabbana gfirli wali walidayya walil mu'minina yawma yakumul hisab. The next ayah says that thereafter he says, Ya Allah, grant me protection and my parents and the believers on the day when the reckoning shall come to pass. Because I was raised by my parents, so I need to pray for them also. I need to be thankful to them for them giving me the values that today we are sitting in this gathering to celebrate the wiladat of the Imam of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. So we see Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam is asking Allah for the tawfiq to be one who establishes salat not for himself only, but for his children and generations that will follow also. When we look at his another dua, which is also very interesting, and that is the ayah we recited at the beginning of the majlis, and he says, and he asks Allah, Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mataka allati an'amta alayya wa ala walidayya wa an a'mala salihan tardahu wa aslih li fi dhurriyyati inni tubtu ilayka wa inni minal muslimin. In this dua, Nabi Ibrahim is seeking from Allah, Ya Allah, give me the opportunity and the ability to thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon me and my parents. So here he's talking about himself and he's talking about his parents as well. I thank you also for the blessing that you have bestowed upon my parents. So he's talking about the blessings upon the parents as well. And then he says, and so that I may do good deeds which will be accepted by you, my Lord. And Ya Allah, he goes further and says, Ya Allah, bless my descendants with righteousness for my sake. The way I remember my parents, let my progeny also remember me. And pray for me the way I pray for my parents. The way I served my parents when they were amongst us and were alive, when I was amongst with them. Let my children and my descendants also be the same. And Ya Allah, give them that tawfiq for my sake, Nabi Ibrahim says. Make them righteous and good for my sake. This dua, if we see, is not only for me, but it is also for my progeny and my descendants and my offsprings. Of course, the benefit will come to me, because one of the baqihatus salihat is to leave behind an upright child who will pray for his parents. So this is an emphasis, actually, if we look at it, as an emphasis of preserving the values that we have been given by our parents. There is a connection. The previous generation gave us values to uphold and preserve. They preserved it from their forefathers and they gave it to us as their children and descendants. It is now time for us to give the same values to our children and our grandchildren and for the generations to come. And when we look at this, in this part of the world, this has become more than a necessity for us to work harder than before to be able to uphold these values of the Ahlul Bayt. When we look around, we see that everyone is very busy. Yes, we are busy in earning, but we cannot forget that earning is one part of our life. Our topmost priority is our children and the generations. What we earn, we will use and leave behind here. But what we will give in our children will become baqihatus salihat even after we leave this life. So it is important that we as Shia, especially the followers of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, take Karbala as an example and implement these values for ourselves, our families and our children, inshallah. We cannot just say, I trust my child. The question of trusting the child is not there. The question is the influence and the environment that our children are growing in. We have to be aware, and we have to be really aware of what is going on around them. We cannot just keep them quiet by giving them toys of iPhones and devices and everything without monitoring it. Give them this, but make them responsible users of these devices. That is our responsibility. They need to have these devices. We have no argument to that. These are good things that will make them grow. with their knowledge and wisdom, and inshallah worship as well. But it is our responsibility to make them responsible adults. Most of us come from East Africa, and we can relate to this. The connection of the previous generations to us and our connection with the next generation. When we see and look at the recent history of the last century in East Africa, when our forefathers came to the shores of East Africa, they migrated. When they came, they did not have much in wealth. In fact, some of them were downtrodden. They didn't have anything. But they had one wealth which is uncompared and cannot be evaluated in any monetary terms. And that was the wealth of faith, the correct Aqidah, and the values of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. This is what their wealth was. And in preserving those two aspects of life, they gave and sacrificed so much that at times they stretched themselves even for their own necessities, but established schools, madrasas, imam bargas, hospitals, sports grounds for us to grow within our own environment so that external forces and influences do not corrupt our children. And we thank Allah for being born in those families that were given this wealth, and they preserved these values for us to be Shias and followers of Ahlul Bayt today. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. These sacrifices that they gave, we saw was not only in 1 or 2 or 3 cities of Eastern Africa. Wherever they were, how many few or more they were in numbers, this was the viewpoint of all the elders in the community. We must have our own school in which our children grow with the akhlaq and the values of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Within these institutions, they strived and struggled to give those values of the Ahlul Bayt and to bring about these values which had needed to be preserved and ensure that the children grew up as upright mu'mineen and then grow from there. They need a springboard. The children need a springboard, and that springboard is the laps of the mothers and the fingers of the fathers. This is how we need to bring them up. And we have heard of many things before. And let us not forget again, Baqihatu Salihat is doing something of khair in which the khair will remain even after we depart. That is the main thing. And as long as that khair stands, the reward for it is also continuous till it stands. When we lay the foundation of a masjid, when we raise an imam barga, a school, a madrasa, and leave behind an upright child, plant a tree for the future generations to benefit. These are all examples of Baqihatu Salihat. However little that we can do, one thing we must understand, that Allah is asking us to give not from what others have. He wants us to give from whatever He has given us. He is not even expecting anything more than what He has given us, because He has not given it to us, so He does not expect it from us. If He has not given me $1 million, He does not expect me to give $1 million in charity. But if He has given me that extra dollar after my expenses, then He expects me to use that extra dollar and stretch it to the best of my ability so that I prepare for something that I will earn for the akhirah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It is very heartening and pleasurable to today note that this community has embarked on a bold project of establishing our own school. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We thank Allah And we pray for all those who have made it possible to establish this institution, inshallah, very soon. And the management will announce the details of all this, the project as well as all that is required. However, as far as we are concerned for today, and for our responsibility, and what we need to do is that we all, each one and every one of us has to be full partners to this institution, whether it is with time or whether it is with the extra savings that we have. We need to even teach our children that from the lunch money that we give to them, that they save that $1, which is thrown away most of the times by our children, to go and give that $1 for this institution. It will be baqihatu saliyat for them because that is their reach. We need to inculcate those values. And mu'mineen, one of the most common questions that have arisen whenever such a thing is brought forward in a community and will be arising in our community as well is, can we spend same imam? Whilst the management is working and it is an advanced negotiation to get ijazas, the relevant ijazas, there is no issues to that. They will announce it as and when they are ready with it. We must understand one thing, that when I give sehme imam that I have, that is imam's money and it is his contribution to the project, not mine. Mu'mineen, we need to dig our pockets for the balance of 80% that we have, not from Sehme Imam. While Sehme Imam is something that is a convenience that Agha will allow, inshallah, but we need to give our own wealth, from our own wealth that we have, which is Qums paid or which is during the year if our Qums date has not come. And we need to earn that baqihatu saliyat as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let us look at this as an opportunity, the establishment of this school as an opportunity at our doorstep. Allah has granted us an opportunity to establish the Deen of Allah for our future generations, a Deen to establish the values of the Ahlul Bayt for our future generations, an opportunity to enhance faith in our children and preserve their values and protect them from external forces and influences. This is an opportunity for us to earn our baqihatu saliyat also, which will help us on the day of Qiyamah. One thing we must always recognize, that Allah says, and this is a promise and this is His Sunnah, like He says in Surah Ar-Ra'd, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma bi qawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Surely Allah does not change the condition of a people until they themselves change their own condition. We take one step forward in changing our condition for the better, Allah will pull us 10 steps further. When we give $1, we see the Quran talking of returning tenfold, not returning the dollar. Tenfold, no. He even talks of 700-fold until eternity and infinite levels. When he says that you give, for example, something, he says it is like a seed that you plant in the ground. It grows into a plant which has 7 ears, each ear getting 100 grains. From one grain, 700. 700 does not mean 700 in number. It means the multifold that Allah will return. Mu'mineen, this is an opportunity. We need to come forward. Hold the hands of our management whom we have put in the office, and all those who have worked hard for so many years, the previous managements as well as the current one, in establishing this institution. It is the single most important institution that we need to bring about, we need to enhance, and we need to all support. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. on this occasion of the Wiladat of Imam Al-Hassan Al-Askari, the father of the Imam Al-Hujjat Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Allahumma salli alayhi. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the grace and by His grace and His mercy, and by the wasila of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, Ya Allah, grant us the tawfiq to be able to establish the values of Ahlul Bayt within ourselves as well as our progenies. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin.
At this time, I'd like to invite our President, Brother Inayat Wali, to make a special announcement. For Muhammad Wali, Muhammad Salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين صدق الله العلي العظيم. Al-Hajj Mohamedraza Janmohamed, my respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of the Managing Committee and the Board of Trustees, I'd like to wish you and your families Kushali Mubarak. This past weekend, the Managing Committee organized a series of town hall meetings where members could come and engage with us and other members of the community to discuss how we can better serve our needs and the needs of the community. Alhamdulillah, the attendance far exceeded our expectations, with many of you coming to multiple sessions and offering your advice and your feedback. And we as the Managing Committee are very grateful that you took the time out of your schedules to come and take part in these sessions. Inshallah, by next week, the Managing Committee will be compiling all of the information, the notes from these sessions, and sharing them with you, along with the strategic plan and the vision that I had presented last month for you to review and also share in the coming months. So the important announcement. By now, I'm sure many of you have already heard, and as Al-Hajj Mohamedraza Janmohamed had said in his speech, we have embarked on a plan to purchase a school. This announcement was made on Saturday, and by the grace of Allah, I wish to inform you that our offer to purchase this property has been accepted. Inshallah, over the next few days, over some detailed contracts with the attorneys, we hope that we'll finalize all of the paperwork and have in our hand a purchase agreement for this school. Salawat. My dear brothers and sisters, it has been a dream of ours for many years to see the day when we as parents and as grandparents can hold the hand of our child or grandchild, walk into a school, and be greeted with Salamun Alaikum. To see our children attend a class where when they start their day, they begin with the pledge of allegiance to the flag of Imam Mahdi. And to see a structure, a building where the banner of the Ahlul Bayt is raised very high. And inshallah, this day is very near. While we have made every effort to ensure the success of the establishment of this school by formation of the Central Board of Education and its institution, the first and foremost and most critical step of this project is for us to acquire and collect the necessary funds. Now, because we haven't completed the transaction in its details, so I won't be able to share much information tonight, but please know that we're working on an information session that will be held either next weekend or the following weekend, where we'll invite the entire community to come and ask questions, to discuss with us as the Managing Committee, and to see what our plan is for the school, how we plan to grow it, sustain it, manage it, and so on. I would like to share with you that over the course of the past 2 weeks, I've had the good fortune and pleasure of speaking with Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi of Toronto, and I'm pleased to inform you that he has given us his written authorization to collect Sahme Imam funds for the school project. I have also had discussions with the president of World Federation, Dr. Askar Moladina, whom many of you met here this past weekend. He has given us his full support and will be working closely with us to see that this project moves forward and also to assist us with the disbursement of khums, as it is a very important responsibility. So in other words, my brothers and sisters, we are now in a position to utilize funds for this project, and I have no doubt that all of you will take advantage of this opportunity, not only to give a portion of your hukuk funds, which, as Malam Janmohamed has stated in his lecture, but really to dig deeper and give of the remaining portion. This project, we anticipate, will be, and it will require an initial capital investment of $1.4 million. It's a large and ambitious number. But over the course of the past couple of months, I feel very confident that not only with the support of you all here in the community, but others who have been looking at Orlando as a guiding light and a model for their communities will also provide us with their support in the coming weeks. Our target is to raise these funds in the next 60 days. And we have already started speaking with some members who have expressed an interest in giving larger sums of money, but it will come from all of us, those of us who can give the smaller amounts, and many of us collectively putting our resources together, inshallah, will achieve this goal. I know you are all as excited as I am, as it was on Saturday night when we shared this information, and you are also anxious to hear more details about the school and where we're going. Please know that we'll share more information as it becomes available, but right now we just want your support, your prayers and du'as, and on this blessed night, let us ask Allah, by the 11th Imam, who is the father of our Imam, that we grant success to this project, that we grant the tawfiq to move forward and achieve this project, and inshallah we'll see our little ones very soon going to our own school in the near future. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.